Hello and welcome to episode 32 of Game Patrol, our weekly podcast where we talk all about video games, the latest and greatest, the most funnest, the coolest, all that type of fun stuff. I'm your host, Landon Plumley, and I'm going solo this week, and it's entirely my fault. I completely slept through when we were supposed to record last night, and so I slept for like 12 hours. Like, my sleep schedule is just non-existent, so it's entirely my fault. And so to get this week's episode up, I couldn't have anybody with me, and I was actually supposed to have a special guest on this week, so I feel really bad about it. But it seems next week will have to be the time for that. But yeah, I missed multiple things in my slumber, but figure we'll just have a little fireside chat because honestly, not a whole lot has gone on. So this is kind of a little bit of a special episode, but also kind of just a little kind of fun episode wrapping up 2020. We've got one more episode. Correct? I'm actually going to double check that. I believe so. Yes. We've got one more episode left in 2020 after this one. And so this week we are doing our 2020 wrap up. Usually at the start of every month I'll do, November wrap up and December outlook. And so since it's the end of the year, this week, because we're getting less stuff because of the holidays and everything, less news, less games coming out, that sort of thing, I figure this week we'll just spend the time wrapping up 2020 as a whole, and then next week we will look into 2021, which there's a lot of really awesome games to look forward to, and I'm really excited to, get into it. And so we shall have all sorts of cool stuff to talk about, but let's get into the games coming this week, which is literally nothing. Like, it's Christmas, guys, which, by the way, Happy Christmas Eve to you all, and Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. All of the above, none of the above. I mean, I don't think anybody celebrates all of the above, but maybe, I don't know. But whatever you're celebrating, hope you have fun, hope you stay safe and COVID-free, all that fun stuff. But yeah, no games are coming out this week. We don't really, the next game release, unless they just announce something, is really Scott Pilgrim vs. the World Complete Edition, which comes out January 14th. So we don't really have jack squat coming out for a few weeks. So the games coming this week section is going to be a little empty. But, what can you do? Like I said, no one wants to launch a game over the holidays. I don't blame them. They want a vacation. They want, to be able to celebrate the holidays and play all of the amazing games that have come out recently, or catch up on their backlog, all that sort of stuff. And so, not surprised at all. Looking into the gaming news, literally the majority of this is all Cyberpunk related because that's just all anyone cares about right now. So first off, they just released. It was, I believe, yesterday. Yeah. Yesterday night, I believe. Yeah. Literally last night. CD Projekt Red released Hotfix 1.06 for Cyberpunk 2077 that thankfully removes the 8 megabyte save file size limit that was causing certain save files to become permanently corrupt. So if you have encountered this issue, it shall be fixed. However, if your save file has been corrupted, it's gone. It's just you won't have to worry about that happening again. But yeah, people were discovering that if their save files went over 8 megabytes, regardless of platform, it would become corrupted because for some reason CD Projekt capped the save files at 8 megabytes. And so it's 100% their fault. So yeah, they increased the size limit so that was not an issue anymore. But, yeah, there's also a couple other fixes, and so I am intending on looking it up. I've tried the game since the 1.05 update, which was a few days ago, and for me personally, I haven't heard too much from other people, but my performance worsened. My frames were a lot worse than before the hotfix. And so I'm curious to see if this hotfix, I know the primary fix was, that save file issue, but I am curious to see if it's, helped in that in any way at all. But yeah, it ran considerably worse for me. And so, yeah, I checked it out after the 1.05. Probably this weekend I will hop in again and check out the 1.06 because I got a notification a couple hours ago that it had installed the update, so I know I'm all good to go. But yeah, I'll see if that's a thing. But yeah, there's a new update for Cyberpunk, but there's still a long way to go until it's a, perfectly fine game to run. Secondly, my favorite news item of the week, the 4K 240 FPS KF console from KFC is real, and it will keep your chicken warm. So this is a real 100% amazing thing. It is basically this kind of mini PC made by KFC and Cooler Master that uses the heating that comes from like your GPU, CPU, just your rig to heat up chicken. Like it has a chicken, a chicken chamber, that's what they call it. They have a chicken chamber where you place your KFC, close it, and then it will keep it warm. So in between rounds, they say you can eat chicken. And this thing is actually a beast. It has an Intel i9 processor, an Asus powered GPU that can be swapped out, and 2 Seagate Barracuda 1TB SSDs that have, quote, PCIe NVMe speeds, that are 6 times faster. So, yeah, they haven't set a release date yet. They haven't set a price, but, like, this thing's a beefcake. I mean, they're claiming that it can do 4K ray tracing, gameplay up to 240 FPS. Like, this thing is a little beefcake, and so it honestly will probably fetch a high price. And, like, I kind of want it. Like, KFC is just amazing with their dating sim and their Lifetime movie with Mario Lopez, and now this. I love the company, and it makes me want to get KFC every time I hear them in the news. And, like, that's kind of the point. But, like, yeah. They're coming out with a gaming console now. Because, of course they are. Of course they are. I love KFC. Gotta love them. Gotta love them. More on Cyberpunk. CDPR says it will refund copies if players can't get them from stores. So another news topic is that Sony removed Cyberpunk 2077 from the PlayStation Store and offers refunds to PlayStation players who already bought it. The same, not the exact same, but Xbox is also offering refunds, but it is still available on the store, but Sony removed it outright. And so now, if you have a physical copy, CD Projekt Red will pay out of their own pocket if they can't get a refund from other stores. So if you have this game on last-gen consoles, be it Xbox One, PS4, PS4 Pro, or Xbox One X, I heavily recommend you take them up on this and get a refund. You know, they are planning on fixing it, but it's a bad way to play. And so I would either get it on PC if you can with a higher spec, or just wait until the next-gen versions, or if you have a next-gen, do that sort of thing, because this is not the way to play it. It is broken. It is bad. And, they are now saying that you can get a refund, and they are helping, all that sort of thing. However, they did also state that even with the current refunds applied, they have still sold 12 million copies of the game. So they are definitely successful. So don't feel bad if you want a refund, because the game is broken. The game is broken. Finally, we've got some Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC release dates announced. So the Sephiroth Fighter is out now. He's been out for a couple days. He came out on Tuesday. And so the next wave of Mii Fighter costumes include Tifa, Aerith, and Barrett, as well as a Chocobo hat and Geno from Super Mario RPG. So that is all out now. I have yet to try him out, simply because I'm just kind of upset that he's in it, because I don't really care about Sephiroth. But, I will test him out probably within this next week and get back with you guys on that. But, And also, the Nintendo released their year in review stuff, so you can sign into your Nintendo account. It will tell you your most played games, how long you've played, different stats like that. My most played game of the year for Nintendo was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Just throwing it out there because it is one of my favorite games ever, and so I love it a lot. I love just everything about it, and so I'm excited to have more of a reason to jump in. I'm just less excited that it's for Sephiroth, but it's whatever. And so that's the news this week. Again, kind of slow because of the holidays, but no news is good news, I guess, sometimes. So yeah. Anyway, let's get into our 2020 wrap up, and with that, I've got two sections of this. And so first off, I want to talk about the best games of 2020. So these are determined by Metacritic. They haven't released their official best games of 2020, so I just kind of did my own thing where I tried to exclude remakes unless they are substantially different from their original release, meaning Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is not on here, Persona 5 Royal is not in on here, as well as, other games like that. But there are some games that are technically remakes, but they are pretty different from their originals, so I felt okay including them on here. And so without further ado, I have the top 10 best games of 2020 as rated by the critics. And so coming in at number 10 is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. This is a game I've been really meaning to play, and I'm hoping to pick up at some point. But this is a full remake of the first two games with some really cool inclusions. Basically, any moves, any skating moves that were added by subsequent sequels to Pro Skater 1 and 2 are in there. So some skate moves from Pro Skater 3 are added in. And they've got a bunch of the old tracks from the original. It looks beautiful. It's stunning. It's, one of the best sports games to come out this entire generation, really. It's really, really fun, really cool. I miss having good skater games to play, and so actually have played Pro Skater 1 this year, the original, not this. And so, because who needs that? I don't actually have it with me. It's back in my apartment in Indianapolis, but I have played Pro Skater this year, just not this one. But that is coming in at number 10. Then at number 9, we have Dreams, which I think is one of the best technological achievements of the entire generation. And honestly, I know it's been in development for a long time, but I really wish they could have pushed this to the PS5 and had this be a launch game, because I think, I think it would have sold a lot of consoles. However, you have 100 million people on the PS4, and so I feel like it was probably better for the team to release this on PS4 in terms of a business aspect. But I really think it would have had so much more potential, even more than it already had. It had a ton of potential as is, and it still has it. But I think it could have had even more potential if they would have brought it over to the PS5. And I really hope that they do take advantage of the PS5 hardware with some sort of patch or something like that in the future, because they've already committed to PlayStation VR support and all this other cool stuff that they've added since release. And so Dreams is absolutely phenomenal, and I've been meaning to jump back into it and play it more because I haven't played it as much as I would have liked to, but absolutely phenomenal. There's been some incredible stuff created on Dreams, some of which are now being made into full games releasing on PlayStation in the future. And so I just think it's amazing, and it's an amazing way to get into game development and make things really cool. And I just absolutely love what it's doing for the industry, just basically having a whole game creation, a game engine at your disposal that's really easy and simplistic to use, and you can make some really, really amazing things with it if you put in the effort. It's not just it's not like a Windows Movie Maker of video games. This is a really well thought out ecosystem, basically, and definitely 100% worth the price of admission, and just a phenomenal game that even if you aren't into game development, there's just a suite of amazing things to play on there, including a little game made by Media Molecule, which is an amazing game. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but it was really, really well done, and the fact that it was made in Dreams just shows off how much you can do with the creation tools in there. And it's a truly unique game, and I'm so glad that this exists because it's really, really cool, and I highly suggest it if you own a PlayStation console. Coming in at number 8, then, we have Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which is just an amazing Metroidvania. I mean, Ori and the Blind Forest was spectacular, and now this sequel, which has been in development for quite a while, it's finally here now, and it's available, on Xbox and on Switch, which is really cool as well. I think it's a perfect Switch game, but absolutely love this game. It's really, really beautiful. I think it was, kind of sucky that this game didn't win Best Art Direction. I love Ghost of Tsushima, but man, the art is just beautiful in this game, and the story is great, and everything about it is pretty great. But yeah, don't sleep on Ori and the Will of the Wisps. It's for free with Game Pass, so if you have that, jump into it. I promise you won't regret it. It's super well done, and just bravo to the devs. I can't wait to see what they come up with next, be it Ori 3 or something new. I know they'll knock it out of the ballpark because they've solidified themselves as an amazing development team. Then at number 7, we have Animal Crossing New Horizons. This is a game that I have criminally underplayed. I only have 4 hours in the game, and I have made it a personal vendetta that I am going to beat this game. I am going to play more of it and really sink some good time into the game. I know people that aren't gamers at all that have played way more than I have, and so it makes me feel bad. But just, you can't deny the sheer power and influence this game has had over the industry in 2020. It is perhaps on this list the most influential of, the group. It's just got a ton of... I mean, everybody knows about this game, It took the world by storm, and it's 100% because of, well, I shouldn't say 100%, but it's largely due to coronavirus and the pandemic and people being home and not having anything to do. And so they lived vicariously through Animal Crossing, and I love that. And while simulation games aren't necessarily my go-to, I still enjoy them, and I've enjoyed what I've played of New Horizons, and I promise I will play more soon. It is definitely on my list, and I will hopefully get to it as soon as I can. So, looking into number 6 now is Crusader Kings 3, which I have played for a few hours. I think I still have it installed on the system. I'd like to come back to it, but this game is a really in-depth strategy game that is very narrative driven, which I like a lot because it's basically like a story driven Sid Meier's Civilization, which I completely dig. If you're a history nut, if you're a simulation game nut, this is for you. There's a whole lot of really in-depth systems in play here, and it's just really fun to play around and mess around with different scenarios and have some fun with that. So if you're into strategy games, this is definitely one for you. It's really well thought out. There is a insane amount of content available, and so 100% do not sleep on this if any of that interests you at all. Then at number 5, another criminally underplayed game by myself, Microsoft Flight Simulator. I've only put an hour into this game, and it haunts me. It really does. It haunts me. This is the most impressive simulator I have ever seen, and in my opinion, just based on all I've seen and the small amount that I've played, I think it is the best simulator ever made. Not just as a flight sim, but just period. I mean, they stream 2 petabytes, that's 2,000 terabytes of data, which includes the current weather data, the current plane traffic, the Bing Maps footage, so that you have this photorealistic, and just not even just photorealistic, but just complete realistic representation of the world. So when you're flying and you see a plane, that is a real life plane flying in that exact location. If you run into a storm, there is a storm at that exact same location. If you go and you pass by the Buckingham Palace, that is the real life Buckingham Palace that is being presented on Bing Maps. That is nuts, and it looks so gorgeous, and just the technology that goes into play here is a true innovation. Imagine if in the next Forza Horizon you are, traveling in a world that is completely, rendered by Bing Maps, and you're just driving along that, and it is like 100% like 1-to-1 ratio of Ireland or some other area like that. Like, that would be absolutely mind-blowing. Just the potential of this technology that they've introduced for Microsoft Flight Simulator is potentially a game changer, pun unintended, for the game industry. I think there's a lot of really cool things that they could use with this application. And so, Yeah, Microsoft Flight Simulator is insane. I highly suggest that you check it out, even if you've never played a flight simulator before, because it's extremely accessible. You can make the controls really complex, or the opposite, and you could play it as if you were flying a plane in GTA. Whatever you want. It's very, very accessible for newcomers, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. Heavily recommend. Do not sleep on this game, as I coincidentally have. And so, yeah, play this game. It's really, really good and deserves to be on this list. Now, coming in at number 4, we have Demon's Souls. I wrestled with myself to put this on here because, you know, the core experience is the same as the PS3 game, but the amount of work that Bluepoint put into this game, I think it deserves to be on this list because it is completely redone from the ground up, and it's a fantastic game. I've put in roughly 7 hours maybe into this game, give or take. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I've never beaten a Souls game before. I've meant to. I just, you know, I'm not that great at video games to be able to beat a Souls game, but I am determined to beat Demon's Souls. I streamed some of this, what was it, Tuesday? Yeah, I streamed some of it on Tuesday, and I finally got past the second boss, and it took me like 15 tries, and I was getting so upset about it. But I absolutely love this game because while it might be insanely frustrating sometimes when you fail, when you succeed and you finally make progress in something that, you know, you've been struggling with for so long, it is among the best feelings I've ever had in a video, like playing a video game. And, you know, that's not going to be for everybody. I don't think Demon's Souls is a game for everybody, but I think people should at least try a Souls game, you know? And with the PS5, with there not being a huge library, I think Demon's Souls, you know, is especially, you know, one that people should check out because, again, if you can just push through and, you know, get to that, like, really just have as much skill and strength as you possibly can muster up to defeat this boss and progress, it is an amazing feeling, and it's one that I can't really relate to any other type of game other than a Souls game. And so I'm really excited to keep playing Demon's Souls. I had a lot of fun. The amount of detail that Bluepoint has went to recreate this is just absolutely nuts. I mean, the character models, even just the basic enemy types. Like, I went into photo mode and examined these things. Like, the amount of textures in this game is absolutely mind-blowing. It's one of the most stunning games I have ever played, and it runs so well on performance mode. Like, I'm playing on performance mode, and it still looks absolutely stunning, you know, and it's running at 1440p. You know, it's not this native 4K, although it can be if you want to play at 30 FPS, but it is absolutely stunning, and it's a hell of a launch game, perhaps one of the best launch games ever, especially for a PlayStation platform, and 100% should not miss out on it. You should at least give it a chance. I think it's really, really fun. Then, at number 3, one of my personal favorite games of the year, it's Hades. I absolutely am in love with Hades. I'm a sucker for Greek mythology. I'm not even a huge roguelite fan. I've played some. Again, it's not my first choice of, you know, game genre, but it's so addicting to just keep doing runs because whereas in games like The Binding of Isaac, where I feel like I just can't make any progress in the game, you're constantly progressing in Hades, be it through the story or just, you know, getting upgrades. You know, you collect resources so that you have that much better of a chance to succeed in your next run. And so even when you're seemingly not making progress, you are, because you're gaining resources, you're upgrading, you're becoming stronger, and it gives you just that much of a better chance to succeed in your next run. And it's so much fun. I absolutely love it. I could see myself putting hundreds of hours into this game. It's just so amazing. The amount of different choices you make in the game, and being able to just completely randomize anything and come up with really cool builds and everything like that. It's so much fun, and I absolutely love it, and I just never want to stop playing it. It's so great. And as someone who doesn't even particularly enjoy roguelites all that much, that's a hell of a compliment from me. Please, if you have not played Hades, you have to play this game. It is absolutely amazing. Just go play Hades. Just go play Hades. It's so good. It is so good, and I cannot stress that enough. Then coming in at number 2, it's the reason to own a VR headset. It's Half-Life Alyx. This is another game that I have criminally underplayed. I have maybe about 4 hours in the game, but that is another one that I am going to be playing here soon, hopefully, and hopefully going back and beating. But this game is absolutely incredible. It is easily the best VR game ever made. And I was really skeptical about this when it first came out because, you know, Valve hasn't made a game in so long. And, you know, playing Half-Life 2, you know, in modern times, it's like, it's still a great game. It still does hold up. But it is a little bit outdated, as it should be. You know, it's a 16-year-old game. But I was a little worried because since Valve hasn't been making games, you know, like, are they outdated now? You know, have they kept up? Half-Life Alyx completely answers that question with a resounding yes. It is amazing. It is not only a good VR game, it is just a great game in general. And it's genuinely terrifying. Like, there are some levels in that game where I just wanted to throw off my VR headset and cry. Because, like, I bought an Oculus Quest for the game. Like, I bought it plus the link so that I could, you know, play it through my PC. I bought a brand new PC for Half-Life Alyx because I thought my old PC could run it, then it couldn't, and so I bought a whole new PC to play Half-Life Alyx. I spent over $3,000 just to play Half-Life Alyx. I spent $2,500 on a new PC and then like $600 on the Quest and the Oculus Link, and then another I think I got it on sale for like $50 for Alyx. So I spent over $3,000 to play Half-Life Alyx, and it was well worth it. And it makes me happy, and I love it to death. And I own 2 VR headsets now because I own the PlayStation VR as well. So that's, you know, that's how much I love that game. And it makes me sad that I never beat it, and it will happen soon, hopefully. But yeah, it's deserving to be on this list. Before I get to the number 1 best game of 2020, list off some honorable mentions real quick. First off, we've got Doom Eternal. I mean, if you like shooters in any way possible, you need to play this game. Like, that's all I can say. The soundtrack is excellent. The sound design is, you know, just unmatched. You know, it's an incredible game. It's just the I don't know if this is a word, but I'm going to say it anyway. The viscerality of it, just the amount of adrenaline that pumps through your veins when you play this game. It's just one of the most satisfying games I've ever played. The 2016 Doom was great, and Eternal managed to improve upon it in every single way. Absolutely love it. If you're into shooters, play Doom Eternal. Then we also have Final Fantasy VII Remake, which would have probably been my game of the year had it not went on 5 to 10 hours too long. I never ended up beating the game. I got really close. I just never officially, you know, rolled credits because it just wasn't fun anymore. I absolutely love this game, and I love the story, and I love Final Fantasy in general. It's just, towards the end, instead of making the enemies more unique or distinct or just, you know, continuing to, I guess, enhance the gameplay, they just made the enemies have way too much health, and that was how it was supposed to ramp up difficulty, you know? And it was just really annoying because they could kill you really easily, but it took you like 20 minutes to kill them. And it's just, like, for that type of game, it wasn't fun anymore. And so I never ended up finishing it. I would like to, and that's one of the things I want to go back and do here soon, but it lost it for me. And so that's honestly what keeps it from being game of the year for me and a lot of other people as well. That's why it's just an honorable mention on this list. A lot of critics felt the same way, and I believe that will not be an issue for the next one. I think a lot of people have made that complaint, and so I think with 7 Part 2 or whatever they decide on calling it, I'm very excited for that because I really think it will be game of the year of whatever, you know, whenever it comes out. I think it has strong potential already. Like, I'm that confident because this first one was such a strong start, if not just a little bit too long. Then Spelunky 2. So I really feel bad for this game because it came out 2 weeks after Hades, and they're basically direct competitors. But I haven't played either of the Spelunky games, but, you know, if you're into roguelites, this is for you. It is, you know, Spelunky pretty much, like, repopularized the roguelite genre, And so now we've finally gotten the sequel, and people love it. So if you're really into Spelunky, you know, you've got a sequel to play now and sink your teeth into. Then, coming in at number 1, the best game of 2020, according to Metacritic, is The Last of Us Part 2. Was anyone surprised? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, this was a divisive game for sure. And personally for me, I didn't beat this game. And it's another one that I would like to. I just have issues with it. And that's what sucks. Because this game, the first 10 hours of the game are the best out of any game I have ever played. Like, if the first 10 hours of the game, like, if it would have had some BS ending and just wrapped up there, it would be my favorite game of all time. Not even of this year, just period. But then it just does something stupid. And if you've played the game, I'm going to avoid spoilers, even though it's been 6 months. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And no, I'm not talking about that thing that happens towards the very beginning. I'm just talking about the huge shift it undertakes. And so basically, I'm going to say this in the most non-spoilery terms that I can. But the game makes, like, it desperately tries to make you care about a character that I extremely do not care for in any way. And I think what makes it so interesting is that it's like it makes me appreciate the game more, but also not like it at the same time, because my reasoning for not liking this character is because of my attachment to other parts of the game and its world. And so there are few games that elicit that sort of response from me. I cried at this game at a spot that many people will likely be able to guess. It is one of the most powerful scenes I have ever experienced in a game, perhaps the most powerful, and that's why I'm not surprised it's winning Game of the Year, because of moments like that. But it is because of that scene, it is because of that moment that I just cannot develop any sort of positive relationship with this character, no matter what they try to throw at me. And it got to the point that they were just really trying to shove this character down my throat that I didn't want to. And it's because I love this world so much, it just felt like such a big FU. Not necessarily, like, I don't think that this was like a haha, like, you know, I think personally the developers underestimated how much people cared about this game and, you know, everything about it. And so I feel like the biggest downfall of this game is that people loved its story too much, to the point where, you know, I think if the first game was like a mediocre game, or like, you know, if the first game hadn't have been as successful as it was and this game wasn't as hyped as it was, I don't think this would have been a problem at all for, you know, people, including myself. But I think just how much this franchise means to people, I think, is what, you know, made this divide, because I think there are plenty of people that weren't as fond of, you know, the characters or this sort of thing, that were perfectly fine with it. And I'm not saying that the story is even bad, and I believe that this character is completely justified in their actions. It's just my attachment, you know, the emotional reaction that I had to that two moments in this game made it to where I couldn't empathize with this character. And it's really interesting. And I would love to do a, like, psychological study on the game. And part of that, you know, I want to beat it. I have a general idea of how the rest of the game goes because I've had it spoiled. So I kind of understand where it goes, but I'd love to do a study on, you know, different people's reactions to this game, because it is a polarizing game. But yeah, there are some moments in this game that are the best I have ever played of any video game ever made. But there were also some really low moments for me, and that's why I never finished it. That's why I put it down. I mean, I was obsessed with this game when it came out. I stayed up, played it played it right as it launched. I stayed up all night. I played until, I think it was like 8 hours or 10 hours or something like that, and then I had to get ready for work. I was working full-time. I worked a full 8-hour shift, came home, still running off of no sleep. I continued to play. I was tired, but I was like, I want to play this game. And I just played until I physically couldn't keep my eyes open. And then I had to go to work the next day. And then I came home and I played more of the game. And it's just like, I lived and breathed Last of Us Part 2 when it came out, until I hit that point where I was just like, I don't want to play this anymore. Like, so it's such a divisive game for me, but I am going to go back and finish it, and then I feel like I will have more concrete feelings about it, but that's just what I felt when I played the game, and I haven't picked it up since. Ever since that first weekend, I haven't played. And so I would like to change that, because, you know, there's been a lot of talk about it, and there's been a lot of discourse, and I think it's just really interesting, the entire situation. And, you know, like I said, I do want to complete the game, and I will hopefully do that. Now, those are the best games of 2020. Now, on the opposite end, let's talk about the worst games, which I'm not going to get as in-depth because, frankly, the majority of these games I've never even heard of, and so I don't know very much about these games, and so, but I figured, you know, let's get into it. Now, I will clarify, I had the same exact thing, however, I went with, they had to have at least 15 reviews. So basically, there's a lot of shovelware out there. There's a lot of bad games that come out every year. But, you know, it's to the point where they're so bad that, you know, people won't really give them the time of day. So these are more of like, because I don't want to say popular, because like I said, half of these I never even heard of. But, you know, a little more notable ones that were, you know, the worst games. So take this with a grain of salt. So coming in at number 10, this is the best worst game on this list. Space Channel 5 VR, Kinda Funny Newsflash, which is a VR version of a Sega Dreamcast game. That's all you really need to know about it. Like, why was this made? Okay, that's cool. Number 9 is Daymare 1998, aka generic survival horror game. Yeah, that came out. Number 8, Bakugan Champions of Vestroya. I have heard of this one because I said I was low-key, like, thinking about picking it up because I loved Bakugan back in the day. I know this is made off of, like, the crappy reboot, but, you know, it was exclusive to Nintendo Switch. Nintendo just really wanted people to play this game. Like, they actually put some decent marketing into it for some reason. But it was as I expected. It was shovelware that wasn't good. And so, you know, rest in peace, Bakugan. Oh, how they massacred my boy. Number 7, we have Disaster Report 4, Summer Memories. I mean, if that doesn't scream generic, I don't know what else to say. The fact that this is the 4th game in the series, like, I guess kudos to them that they had enough wit. Like, honestly, like, I would like to see what company made this game, because they probably aren't very successful if they thought they could make 4 of these things. And they would be successful. But yeah, it's bad. Number 6, we've got G.I. Joe Operation Blackout, which is another one I've heard of. It's I can't even remember exactly what it is. It's like a team. It's a multiplayer team battle thing. It's a shooter. Like, it's a multiplayer shooter that just is very generic, and then they slap the G.I. Joe brand on it, which is interesting because G.I. Joe has been kind of dead for a little while. Like, they've been talking about doing movies and stuff, but, like, it's kind of a dead franchise at this point, so it was really surprising to me when they announced they were coming out with a multiplayer game based on it. But, yeah, it wasn't good. So, it's the sixth worst game of 2020. So, you know, I doubt we'll be seeing much from that game. Or, you know, that brand. Just, at this point, just let it die. I'm sorry. Not saying it wasn't good, not the franchise, not this game, but just I feel like it's just time to put the franchise to rest. Just let it die. Let it die. Number 5, we have Those Who Remain, and I swear I've heard of this game, but it just wasn't clicking for me. It's a survival horror game. Notice how, we've got a few horror games on this list because they tend to be kind of generic anyway. And so, yeah, this is another example. It just, it wasn't good. It looked kind of pretty, but other than that, whatever. Number 4, we've got Arc of Alchemist, which I struggled to find anything like. It just looks like an anime game, I guess. I really couldn't tell what the heck this game was. I tried my best, but I have no clue what this game is. So yeah, that says enough about it. And number 3, we've got Street Power Soccer, which sounds like it's trying to be the NBA Jam of soccer games. It just failed miserably. So kudos to you, I guess. Try again next time. I don't know. Number 2 is Tamarind, which I guess was trying to be some sort of spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio, I guess. It's just, it didn't. It failed, and don't do that again. Find something else, or find some other place of work. Yeah, don't do that. And before we get to the number 1 pick, I have some dishonorable mentions. We have Overpass, which is generic buggy game. Bright Memory, which makes me very sad because I was very excited for this game. It was a Series X launch game. It came out on PC earlier, but yeah, it was a Series X launch game. People didn't like it. Critics didn't like it. People didn't like it even more. And so yeah, it is currently overall the worst received Xbox game for the series. And so that makes me sad. I hope Infinite's better because I was really looking forward to this game. But yeah. And then Predator Hunting Grounds. And this is one I've actually played. I put a decent amount of hours into. And I think it gets a little more hate than it deserves. But the matchmaking is broken as hell. I think 3 times, and after the 3rd time, I was like, okay, I'm putting this game down. I can't play it. I was sitting in the matchmaking queue for 30 minutes. It just could not find a match. So besides that, when you can actually play a match, it's not Game of the Year or anything, but it's not bad. But it just takes forever to get into a match. And I don't know how it's been doing. I saw them tweet something. I follow Ilphonic on Twitter. I saw them tweet some stuff. So I think they're still supporting the game. I don't know if it's any better. Someone commented on a YouTube video I had fairly recently, talking about matchmaking issues. So I think they're still there. I don't know how they're still man, Women is so cool because it is a really cool game sometimes. I'm really disappointed, honestly, but yeah, hopefully they can do better. Maybe they should. I hope they do fix it. That'd be really cool because it was fun. It was fun. It needed some more content, but I think Predator Hunting Grounds is a game that could easily still be very good if they just put some work into it. And so, if you're listening, Ilphonic, do that. Now, on to our number 1, the worst game of 2020, one that I have heard of and actually talked about on this podcast one time. It is Remothered Broken Porcelain. This is a horror game that is a sequel to some other Remothered game that I'd never heard of. The only reason I heard about this game is because it was included on the Games Coming this week back in October. And I looked it up, and it looked really cool, actually. I mean, aesthetically and just graphically, it looked really good. And so I was like, oh, okay. Critics did not agree. And so I was like, oh, okay, I guess. Because I had just played Amnesia Rebirth, and so I was really looking for some more horror games to play. So I was considering picking this up. But thank Christ I didn't, because it is supposedly horrible. And so, yeah, don't do it. Don't play it. It looks very tempting, but don't do it. Don't play this game. It's bad. Stay away. There you go. Remothered Broken Porcelain, the worst game of 2020. And on the opposite end, The Last of Us Part 2, the best game of 2020. And there you have it, folks. that was our 2020 wrap-up. We had a lot of great games. Notice how Ghost of Tsushima was not on the best of 2020 list. That is because critics suck. People's choice is Ghost of Tsushima. Remember that. Ghost of Tsushima is awesome. Play Ghost of Tsushima if you can. Yeah. In this house, we stand Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah. 2020 was an awesome year. There's a lot of awesome games that came out. And I'm really excited for 2021 as we, fill out some next-gen games, because there's not a ton of PlayStation 5 games to play right now, and there's even less on the Series X. And so I'm really excited for 2021 to make that. Because on the PlayStation side, I'm going to save that for next week. But there's a lot of games to look forward to. I'm really excited. I think 2021 is going to be a great year for games. But 2020 had a lot of really awesome games as well. It was a hell of a send-off for last gen, which is now last gen, which is crazy to call it that. I still call it current gen a lot of the time, and I still refer to PS5 and Xbox as next gen most of the time, so that's going to take a while to get used to, but that's what we've been. So as far as the games I've been playing, it's pretty much all PS5 stuff. I've been having, now that I've kind of moved on from Cyberpunk, I've been playing a lot of PS5. Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, it was the first co-op game that I own on the PS5, I think. Yeah, because I was trying to think about, my main thing was Bugsnax and Worms Rumble, and I don't think either of those are co-op. Potentially Worms Rumble, but I don't know. But I have yet to try that game out. But I immediately told Bakel that I had this game, and so I went up and we tried out the co-op first, and it's a lot of fun. It runs super well, unlike some other co-op games on the PS5. I'm looking at you, Black Ops Cold War. I will get into that in a second. But it runs silky smooth, 4K 60 FPS, no screen dips, whatever. I played some of the story when I streamed it on Tuesday, and it's a super fun game, and I'm excited. I played some of this back in the summer on Stadia, but I never beat the game. But there's plenty of content. You've got a full story, and you've got a full expansion and aftermath. There's a ton of characters. When we were playing co-op, we were messing around with, just doing random characters. We were playing as, Rambo, RoboCop, all this other stuff. It was really, really fun. And so I'm excited to, get into it more and have some fun with all of that, and just really feel I'm hoping to platinum the game at some point. But, I love Mortal Kombat 11. I think, honestly, every time NetherRealm comes out with a game, it is, their best. They continue to improve with every game, and I think the biggest improvements on Mortal Kombat 11's end is just the sheer amount of content and, the story expansion and all the guest characters and everything. In my opinion, I think that was their greatest achievement with this. But, we also, I think it's the best fighting game, that they've made thus far. I loved Mortal Kombat 10. I loved Injustice 2. I played a little of Injustice 1. That's why I didn't mention that one. And I haven't played Mortal Kombat 9. But, yeah, I've loved all of the games that I've really put some time into with NetherRealm, and I'm really excited for Injustice 3 because, I don't know, the man made a tweet about Batman versus Spider-Man, and ever since then, I'm just hoping and praying that Injustice 3 is Marvel versus DC, because that would be so cool. Will it happen? I don't know. Probably not, but Ed Boon, his Twitter is just making me feel things, and I just... I hope, and I pray. That would be so good. It would automatically win Game of the Year. I don't care. Technically, we should be getting Injustice 3 in the spring, but they should have announced it by now. I imagine due to both the Aftermath DLC for Mortal Kombat 11 as well as COVID have pushed that back. So I would guess next year, like spring of 2022, would be when we get it. Maybe, question mark. I don't know. But I'm excited to see what they come up with next because, yeah, NetherRealm, they've been doing some solid stuff. Then I played some Cyberpunk. Like I said, I checked out the hotfix. I've almost finished my speed run. I've been focusing more on PS5 stuff, and so I'm not really playing it as much anymore. But I'm almost finished with my speed run of the game, which I heavily do not recommend you do because it makes it extremely difficult. I also played it on hard. and so I'm just severely underleveled, so any enemy just kicks the snot out of me, so it just makes the game very, very difficult. But I'm almost done. I'm on the final mission. I have a thing against doing manual saves in the middle of missions, or like, you know, I only manually save when I get off, because, you know, I just think that's like kind of cheating. I know it's not, but I just consider it to be. And so in the final mission, like if you die, you go like all the way back, like through like, I mean, it's not a ton of gameplay, but you just have to go through a lot of dialogue again, and it's just really annoying. And so I was like, I'm okay. I'll come back to it. And so I haven't beaten it yet, but I was also trying out a different ending because, you know, it's a different ending than I did with my first playthrough, so I've been checking it out. Because there are a total of 5 endings, and I would like to try them all out. We'll see if I do that, because I don't know if I have 5 playthroughs in me. Probably eventually, but, you know, right now at least, it's not going to happen. But then like I said, I played some Demon Souls, beat that Tower Knight, that little piece of shit, let's be honest here. But it felt good. You can look up the VOD on Twitch. I screamed. I was so happy. It was the best moment of my life. It was great. I loved it. And then I immediately went back to the Nexus, spent my souls, and said, all right, we're done. So, yeah, I'm hoping to play some more maybe on Tuesday. I was going to stream tonight, but I have some plans, so that's not going to happen. And so on Tuesday will likely be the next time that I stream. At least Demon Souls. I'll do some streams on YouTube, but that's probably going to be the next time that I do some PS5 streams. Will be on Tuesday. But, yeah, played some of that. Like I said, I love it. I played a little bit more Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. It's getting to the point now, I think I'm over halfway through playing as Virgil, and it's getting a little repetitive since you have access to most of his stuff. Like, yes, you get new combos through, you know, purchasing, spending red orbs. But I think a game that is meant to be played by 3 different characters, now all being played through one, makes it a little bit repetitive. Like, I'm starting to be like, okay, like, I'd like to replay the game as, you know, Dante V and Nero. I think, you know, it plays better that way. But like I said, Virgil is so much fun to play as. It's just, you know, I've kind of had my fun with him, you know, so I'm still going to beat it as Virgil, but I'm getting a little bit, you know, I'm getting a little over it a little bit, but it's still a super fun game. And like I said, it's the best hack and slash game I've ever played. And I'm excited to redo the story and just be able to fully experience that again, because it's so good. It's so good. So yeah, I played a little bit of that. I played some Sackboy: A Big Adventure, which, guys, I cannot stress enough, do not sleep on this game. And if you can, play it in co-op. It's available on PS4, so if you're not getting a PS5 anytime soon, you can play it on PS4. And it is so much fun to play in co-op. I played for a good chunk of time with Bakel and our friend Matt. We played 3-player co-op, and because all of us had a DualSense to bring over. I'm the only one with a PS5, but they both got DualSenses because they're crazy. And so we all played, and it was so much fun. It's difficult to describe things because, you know, we were having a great time, and it's just so much better if you have the context of like seeing it. But basically, it is very much like a mix of Super Mario 3D World and Super Mario Odyssey. And so instead of coins in the game, you have these like bubbles. And so there are these things that are in the game that they're like these little nubs that you can pull out. And sometimes it requires multiple players to pull at the same time. And so sometimes there's only one, sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 3, or if you're playing with 4-player, you know, sometimes there's 4. And so this one specifically had 2, right? So I was grabbing onto one, and Bakel grabbed onto another. And he told Matt, he was like, because Bakel is extremely hostile in that game for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Like, he wants to collect all of the bubbles. And so there's so many times we missed collectibles because this man was just speeding ahead to get the bubbles before we could. He is the dictator of Sackboy. But he was like, yeah, you're not getting the bubbles this time, Matt. And so then Matt goes, because you can hit each other in the game. So Matt goes and just slaps Bagel. And then while I'm sitting here just trying to collect my bubbles, these guys are getting into this prolonged fight that goes on for like 2 or 3 minutes of them just like fighting over this nub to try to get this like one bubble that's left. And then it gets to the point eventually that Bakewell just picks up Matt and throws him off the edge of the map. And I had to pause the game because we were crying. It was so much fun. It is the best co-op experience I've had in forever. Like, Nintendo really got screwed over by Sony this year, honestly. Like, Sony killed it. With Astro's Playroom and Sackboy, they have made some of the best platformers I have played in such a long time, maybe ever. I just absolutely love them both. And so please do not sleep on Sackboy. It's so much fun. It's fun to play on your own, but like preferably with friends. Just get some friends together and have a great time playing the game. It's extremely adorable. It plays super well. Do not sleep on this game. It is so much fun. And so, yeah, play Sackboy. Perhaps the game I've been playing the most this week has been Spider-Man Miles Morales. It's a bunch of fun. It is shorter than I expected. I'm almost done with the game, but I'm planning on platinuming it, so I'm doing like all the side stuff because there's a ton of stuff to do in the game, and it feels so good. I'm playing in performance ray tracing, so I'm getting 60 FPS. I'm getting ray tracing. It's a dynamic resolution between 1440 and 1080, and it looks absolutely stunning. Like I'm just shocked by how good it looks because I played Devil May Cry 5 on performance, and honestly, outside of like the city level, it doesn't really look good. It kind of looks grainy because it's running at 1080p on a 4K screen. I guess it just doesn't look as good. But Miles just looks absolutely stunning. Like no matter what, it is gorgeous, and just swinging at 60 FPS. It is beautiful. I immediately put on the Spider-Verse suit as soon as I could, and that looks awesome as well, like just reducing the animation to 24 FPS. It's like, my friends and I compared it to Space Jam, where it's like, it looks like you're playing an animated character in a live-action world, because the world is still rendering at 60 FPS, but, you know, the character itself is at 24. So, it's just, it reminded us of Space Jam. It was really funny. But yeah, I immediately did that, but now I'm experimenting with all the other different suits and everything, and it's such a fun game, and I absolutely love it. Definitely understand everybody's praise of it, and so yeah, that's the game I've probably been playing the most this week. It's a lot of fun. And then I played some Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which my feelings towards it are kind of a mixed bag. I dipped my toes into everything, so I played a match of multiplayer on stream, and which, my God, like I've never played a multiplayer game with ray tracing on, and so playing it, because I played like probably the best looking map like for my first match, which is Miami, and so just looking at the ray traced reflections in the puddles in like the night sky and just everything, it was absolutely gorgeous. It was almost distracting how good it looked. Like I was trying to focus on this, like, getting these kills and like not dying or anything like that, but it was so beautiful. Like, my God, this game is gorgeous. And then I played the first mission of the campaign, and same thing, just absolutely stunning. And then I played a round of zombies, which I also really, really enjoyed because it's much more narrative driven this time. Because I like having stuff to do in games. Like I like a narrative push, but with the Easter eggs, it's like I wasn't a fan of having to look up a guide to figure out what to do. And so with Cold War Zombies mode, it's much more like everybody they're like everybody plays for the narrative anyway, so let's just tell them what to do. So I appreciate that a lot. So I really like the Zombies mode so far. It's really fun. But then I went up and we were trying out more co-op stuff, right? And so we played Split Screen, which originally wasn't in the game. They literally added it just a few days ago. Or I think it was like a week ago now. But it breaks Cold War. I think it just has to do with it being so technically advanced, like with ray tracing and all of that. They've said that you shouldn't be playing it with ray tracing if you're doing split screen, but it's just annoying. Like, why? Like, it breaks it. Like, if you turn on split screen, the first match or two, it's fine, but then it just, like, it runs super smooth. Like, props to them for keeping the performance up. Like, it still ran at a silky smooth 60 FPS, but players were invisible. It wasn't loading in textures, like, at all. It just looked like garbage. It ran perfectly fine. It's just, yeah, you couldn't see anything. Like, it was unplayable to play multiplayer. Zombies was pretty okay. I don't think we ever had any issues with split screen on Zombies, but multiplayer, you could not do split screen. It just, non-existent. So I really hope they fix that. They say to turn off ray tracing. We did, but we still experienced it. It wasn't as bad, but yeah, we still had issues with it. So split screen is pretty broken on Cold War, at least on consoles. I don't know specifically on Series X if there are those issues, but I would imagine there would be. But yeah, so that's disappointing. But the game is fun. The game is fun when it works. And like I said, like, playing by myself, I never had any issues with the game. It did crash twice. It crashed once for me. I think it was... I don't think it was... It wasn't during a match when it crashed when I was playing by myself. And I believe it was the same... Yeah, it's... both times that it's crashed for me, it hasn't been while I'm in game. It's just been in the menu screen for some reason. And so there are some performance issues with the game, but for the most part, it's perfectly fine. It's not like Cyberpunk or anything. And so, yeah, I'm having a fun time with it. I'm excited to play some more. I'll probably play some more within the next week. But with that, I'm going to get out of here. This has been a fun time. I thought this would be a shorter episode, but we actually hit an hour. So pat myself on the back for that. I managed to keep you guys around for that long. But thank you guys for being here. I know we still have an episode left, but, since this is just us, this is how I started this thing all the way back in January. I'm really excited. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Game Patrol, which is nuts. But I just want to say thank you to anybody that's, watched or listened or any of that this year. It's been a wild and crazy year, honestly. 2020 has been rough, but, there's been some good stuff, and this podcast is definitely one of them. And so, again, thank you guys for listening. You guys really don't know how much it means to me. I put a lot of work into this every single week, and it makes me happy. It's among the highlights of my week. It really is. And so I have a lot of fun with it, and I hope you guys, enjoy listening. And yeah, thank you guys again. I'll see you guys next week, and adios.